A very good evening to all of you online and all of you who are with us today. Thank you for being here. The resumption of physical events is something that we're really enjoying at CIC, and we hope to see more and more of these physical events and more people coming out. And today, the subject, of course, is of extremely keen interest. Chennai has witnessed nearly 50% more rain than it normally does. On average, it gets about 130 centimeters. I'm told this year we will cross 2000 and maybe go north of 2000 as well. And no doubt all of us are thinking very deeply as to why this is happening. Why is it Bombay got the heaviest ever rain in the month of November, which it never really gets? Why is this happening everywhere? And therefore, this brings us not only to the issue of climate change, but also to the importance of society being resilient and responding. So today we have with us a wonderful panel of three eminent people who each of them have contributed to this aspect of either climate change or resilience or both. So I am very happy to introduce Mr. Gagandeep Singh Bedi, which everybody who knows him is the Commissioner of Chennai. Corporation Commissioner, extraordinarily dynamic individual, I would say, because I've had the opportunity to interact with him both during his tenure as Agricultural Secretary when we were busy rescuing Alfonso mangoes in Sivaganga, which I did till COVID never knew that Alfonso mangoes grew in Sivaganga. And the way he responded was just absolutely marvelous. So, and now he's doing the same for the city of Chennai, especially in the second wave of COVID. Also, he was closely involved. So, welcome, Gagandeep ji, for this meeting. We have with us Mridula Ramesh, and even if I say that she's one of the most thoughtful writers on the subject of climate change, even though I must publicly disclose that I'm very happy that she's my niece. So I'm even doubly happy that she's also my niece as well as an eminent climate change writer. Her new book is out, I think, and Watershed, which is available. Please do try and buy a copy if you are interested. It's available for sale outside. And so she will be joining us too. She's a very avid investor as well. So I have three things to say. She's my niece, she's into climate change, and she's an investor. I mean, how can I ask for more? Arun, of course, we all know very well. Arun Krishnamurthy and his work. The second time, I think, Arun, we have the privilege of hosting you at Chennai International Center. The last time it was about the actions being taken by Chennai society on a voluntary basis to restore water bodies in Chennai. And the excellent work the Environmental Foundation of India is doing was something we had the opportunity to showcase, another excellent example of resilience. And of course, to moderate this and string it together, our Sutradhar of the day is Ramya Kannan, who is the TN Chief of Bureau at the Hindu. So we look forward to this wonderful event. We look forward to a resilient Chennai, and we look forward to less climate change. So over to all of you. Ramya?
Good evening, everybody. And I'm just going to take my mask off as I speak, if that's okay with all of you. I think CIC has been at the forefront of organizing a number of seminars and webinars that are of interest and of great significance to the society that we live in. And I think that this is one of those eminently useful seminars. And I think possibly at the end of this or through this, we might have some solutions. We might begin to think of solutions for this city. And we have a perfectly qualified panel here to start this discussion. Let this be a beginning that will be taken on further. And let's try to build together a resilient Chennai. So I'd just like to give a short introduction, and maybe we could start with Mridula. Sir, would you like to go next?
No, perfectly.
Or would you like to wind it up, or what would you? Yeah, perhaps then we can have Arun next, and then Mr. Bedi. Mr. Bedi, of course, needs no introduction, and he's been like a whirlwind commissioner on the streets. Everywhere you go, there's water stagnant, and Mr. Bedi is there with his gumboots. So just as an introduction to set the context for this very, very important issue. So the cataclysmic events that were predicted to happen as a result of climate change are upon us today. Not in our backyard, in our front yards, they're drowning us. That's the kind of change that climate change has wrought upon us. And it's for us all to see. It's impossible to ignore it anymore. We can't pretend that climate change will not have an impact on our lives. What we saw in 2015, as we all remember, it's fresh in our memories, is just a mere prelude to what is to come, to the extreme weather conditions that will dominate our future, for sure. Not only this city, but metropolises across the world. So, in addition to the pandemic, which is a huge burden on resources, both government as well as civil society, the flooding during the monsoon period has led to great suffering for the citizens and unending labor for government and civil authorities, besides civil society organizations. While in 2015, it was a huge quantity of rainfall within a short period of time, within a 24-hour period that wrecked the city, costing us enormously in terms of life and property. In November, it was steady and continuous rain through the month, exceeding over 1,000 mm, and it was the highest in 100 years. Every year we seem to come close to breaking that record, and it looks like in future we might continue to break it, or at least come close to breaking that record. So climate change activists have for long foretold of the deleterious impact of ignoring warnings. Among them are alternating years of flood and drought, and Chennai, as we know it, is a city that is dependent literally on 1 month of a year for its rainfall. So it's not, it's not rocket science then that this city faces both flooding during the monsoon as well as drought during the summer months. And it's not far back, not too far back, because it was in 2019 that the city was scrambling, the citizens of the city were scrambling to order tanker lorries to fulfill their water requirements. Drinking water became such an issue. We haven't listened to the warnings clearly. Anyway, even as our past is upon us, we do need to think of our future, and we do need to write into it these extreme events. We need to think about how we can handle our floods and droughts. We need to think about building a resilient city that can take on extreme events and still emerge unscathed, or at least with some damage, with least damage. Clearly, there are several aspects we need to think about when we embark on this journey. And a key element of this is multi-sectoral involvement. And I think today's panel, it segues beautifully into today's panel, where we have climate change experts, we have civic authorities and members of civil society organizations, and of course all of us citizens of this city who have a great interest, a vested interest in how this city grows and develops in the future. So I'd like to invite Mridula first to talk about your book. Okay. I've had an opportunity to just look at it briefly, but we'll read it and kindly.
Thank you so much. The first question always to ask is, why are we here? I think Ramya put it beautifully. We are here because the city was rained out. It faced extreme rain a few days ago. And then I think, as she said, the 2015, after that also, I think CIC had an event, right, on the thing. Then 2019, and I think we had an event after that also. So we keep having events, and here we are again. And it's a nice, bright, sunny day today. And that really typifies, what we've said till now typifies two things. The rain itself, the changing nature of the rain, right, and the management or our response to the rain. And I think when I started, the first, I got into water because I ran out of water at home. That is the first story. But in becoming resilient, and when Chennai suffered its 2019, that day zero moment, Madurai also suffered. But Madurai, not being a metro city, did not get that much attention, but we also suffered. But in that year, the worst year and worst drought in Madurai in 140 years, we were one of the few houses not to buy water at all, because we'd understood the nature of India's water. And it becomes almost fashionable to blame everything on climate change, and climate change definitely has a role to play. But we need to understand what that role is and what part our response to our own rainfall is. And here is where I want to take us to the actor in the center of this entire drama, the rain. The rain, the Meghadutam, the monsoon, the cloud messenger, who India understood fabulously once upon a time. We understood the vagaries of that messenger so well. Kalidasa writes about him beautifully in the first stanza of his opening act. And when you look at India's rain, not as Chennai's rain, not as Bombay's rain, not as Northeast rain, not as Kerala's rain, but as India's water, we find that it has certain characteristics. Right? First, it's geographically varied. One of the most useless statements you can say is, India has an average rainfall of 1100 millimeters a year. It's absolutely useless, right? Because there are places which have 165 millimeters a year. There are places where 5 meters of rain fall in a matter of months. Average is a meaningless word. The second thing is, India has the most seasonal rainfall in almost every country in the world. They did a seasonality index, that is how much it varies across a year. And in 166 countries, we were more seasonal than 162 countries. India has the most temporally skewed rainfall in the year, right? I don't know whether I put that slide up because last minute, sorry, can we have the slides please? No, not yet, I think I forgot that. But sorry, it's not a pitch for my book, but in the book, if you look at cities, comparable cities in the world, India really falls in a skew. We get most of our rain in 100 hours. I want you to repeat that to yourself. India gets most of its rainfall in just 100 hours. Our demand is year round, right? So the moment I've said these things, you are now saying, okay, how do we match the constant demand with such seasonal, temporally skewed supply? The answer is storage. Right? There's one other facet of the cloud messenger we have to see. That is, India's rain varies across years, right? As El Nino, La Ninas, the Madden-Julian oscillation, larger forces over time enter and exit the stage, India's rainfall varies across the years. So this is the nature of the cloud messenger. And these are the facets that the cloud messenger has. And now, because once upon a time we got this, our ancestors understood this, and things like tanks, the traditional Aries, the Kammais, the Kurams, the Johards respected this. And then we forgot, partly because of British influence, and then partly as we urbanized, tanks became very valuable as dry land on which you could build things. And over time, the tanks have disappeared. If you look at the Chennai Madras Health Inspector report from 1916, he talks of 462 tanks in central Chennai. And then he says, they're just unhealthy, unwholesome things which should be filled up because they're sources of cholera and malaria. And we should replace it with piped supply. And the British have gone 75 years, but our colonization of the mind sometimes still remains until the rain itself nudges us, saying, yeah, go. Then the other thing is, then you've created the fault line because the tank provided a place for the rain to flow into, that seasonal rain to flow into and fill the groundwater. But then when you built over the tanks, you've created a fault line, right? It's like a wound. And then you've got the greatest pressure, the greatest stressor in the world coming and pressing on that wound. And that stressor is climate change, right? So every facet of India's rainfall, climate change increases contrast. It makes dry regions drier, wet regions wetter. It makes wetter months wetter, it makes drier months drier. So when you look at the pattern, you look at your Chennai's 2019 crisis, the pre-monsoon rains disappeared, right? The summer rains came down. So, it makes dry seasons drier and wet. So if you were to get 1300 mm and you got most of it in the winter monsoon, and you got some in the pre-monsoon, and some in the summer, and some post-winter in January, February. Now you're going to start getting more and more of it in your wet regions, as you're seeing now, and less in the dry seasons, which means you're increasing contrast. You're going to see more droughts like the 2019 crisis, and you're going to see more wet like 2015 and this year, right? So then you ask the question, Arun's doing great work saying I'm rejuvenating tanks, but there's always a question to ask, why did the tanks disappear? And if I rejuvenate them today, why will they appear? So can we go to the first slide, please? So this is what wonderful work that bureaucracies have done. You see that the line is actually the death toll from floods, landslides and storms, and this is all India. And you can see that the death toll has gone up, but it's relatively flattened and even come down a little bit. So we've become pretty good at saving lives because of early warnings and evacuation protocols, etc. We've become pretty good at saving lives from floods and droughts. Like Orissa is a stand-up example of how good we've become. But that blue graph is the damage from floods, droughts and storms. And to me, the reason I wrote this book is very simple. Everyone who talks on climate talks about carbon. The climate itself speaks through water. And in India, as the single most vulnerable country to climate change, we need to speak the language of the climate. We need to speak of water. And that's why the book was written. Next slide, please. So my institute, which is Sundaram Climate Institute, we actually went around and studied 50 tanks in Madurai and said, okay, what are all tanks the same, right? So if you rejuvenate it, are we done? Do they all do a good enough job of preventing flooding and improving groundwater? And the reason is no, not really. Functional tanks tend to do a far better job. Far better job. We looked at groundwater. We spoke to about 5,000 people, and we crowdsourced groundwater depths at different distances from the tank, and we found that functional tanks keep groundwater levels about 200 feet lower, or more recharged than dysfunctional tanks. Then we asked the question, okay, because we looked at about 50 different variables to understand what was actually functional. So this is the answer that came to us. Earlier, tanks remained functional because there was so many repetitive benefits. There were spiritual benefits. Like 80% of the tanks we studied were associated with the temple. So building a tank was considered karmic brownie points. Maintaining a tank gave you temple status in festivals. And these were considered really important because our factory is located in the middle of a group of tanks, and everybody would get absent on the festival days because it was considered so important. The second thing was cash flow. This is something we forget. Cash is king, and tanks provided cash flow. Fishing, lotuses, livestock rearing, repetitive, tangible benefits flowing from tank to community. Right? So you had spiritual perks, you had cash flow, and it was a center of festivity. And today, in urban tanks, many of them are sewage filled with solid waste. They have dogs, mosquitoes, they're yucky. The British have taught them to see it differently. So what status can a sewage-filled dump give you? And any fishing revenue doesn't accrue to the local community. So the local community link is also severed. So we asked a question, and I'll go through it in question and answer in the thing. But we found out there is a very, very interesting way to rebuild the link with local community, but I'll go for it later. Thank you so much.
So we now invite Arun Krishnamurthy. His EFI has been doing phenomenal work in the city and suburbs. They've even launched into other districts in Tamil Nadu, as he might tell you. So Arun.
Is it okay if I use the podium? Vanakkam, good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in all your company. My greeting salutations to the administrative leaders, to the academicians, and the larger well-wishers who've always helped us achieve what we've been able to do so far. It's been a collaboration. Now, I'm really thrilled to continue where you left, right? The tank and the community, right? Anybody here from Anna Nagar? Yes. Any water body near your location, ma'am? Anything that you know of? இருந்தது இப்போ இல்லை இல்லையா? Anybody who's recently moved into a neighborhood in Chennai in the last 5-10 years? So you all lived in Chennai and you've lived in that same area location. I've moved 6 houses in Chennai, and my journey starts when I say Chennai, not just the GCC limits, little outside in the CMA limits too. My life starts in Muduchur, then it comes to Besant Nagar, it goes to Adayar, comes back to Besant Nagar. In this entire shift, and if I have a question which I can pose at each of you, what is the calamity that strikes Japan? Tsunami, earthquake. Are the Japanese prepared for their tsunami and the earthquake? Yeah. Now, what I always judge as a scale of measure is the Japanese level of awareness and measurements of social penetration is such that somewhere in Southeast India, we know that the Japanese get hit by an earthquake and that they're prepared for the earthquake. Now, when I go to Avadi and when I talk to them about any water body in and around the Avadi belt, the Muduchur belt, or the Tambram belt, you come as it is into the city from Besant Nagar to Tiruvanmiyur to Adayar, T Nagar and more. There is nil or absolutely minimal water sensitization. I don't know where my fresh water is coming from. All of us here probably know the Pulal, Pundi, Chembrampakam, the Thervai Kandigai, all these Cholavaram, all these reservoirs by name. Do we know which part of the reservoir sends water to my particular colony community? How much water am I using for what purpose? What is the quantum and the quality of water that I'm sending out of my home? What is the quantum quality that I'm receiving inside my house? Am I being metered? My water usage, first of all, as civic society, has no monitoring system. Second, I do not understand the topography I live in, my coastal belt, my estuaries, the lakes and the ponds, the system connection that they have. And then I largely go into an urban comfort, which simply is a blame game. Whoever is in power, right? I'm not going to take sides. Whoever is in power, it's easier for us to blame the administration and for the administration to in return point the finger at us telling us, look, you guys have not done this properly. So it's a tit for tat, tu meme in which we are stuck. We don't have a comprehensive plan for Chennai with regards to our participation, right? I'm not even here to find a solution, one-stop solution, because I don't even know if it exists. My bigger worry today is if you've driven past Tiger Varadachari Road into the beach road at Kalakshetra Colony, until last year, there was no pedestal speed breaker at that junction, right? And a year ago, they made a pedestal speed breaker which was supposed to bring in aesthetic value to that given region locality. It did so. It made the area look beautiful. Also, what it made was every household and apartment raising their platform levels, which meant houses that were 30-40 years old, 600-700 meters away from the beach, sandy soil, where there's been no history of flooding. Now, because of this one particular 1980 square feet of a pedestal speed breaker, there are homes that are getting flooded. And if you ask me whose home, it was my very rented house that got flooded. Now, the ecosystem economics of this, I can name the speed breakers where the flooding is happening, right? Now, the ecosystem economics of this, the number of working days that I lost and the institution that I'm associated with lost, the kind of damages that this household went through, which has to be repaired, now has to be repurposed and has to be rebought. Now, why are we not associating ecosystem economics to climate change? Why are we not associating environmental damage to our daily life, lifestyle, and more? That's exactly where there is an inbuilt anger that the urban chaos that we've made collectively without blaming anybody is so convenient, comfortable, because there's one calamity after the calamity that hits, which becomes sensationalized without giving me an opportunity to apply common sense to find a sustained solution through which I would be able to call this city my home and just have a normal life where I don't get flooded, where I don't have to next year worry about will I get water. And all of this has one key solution, which is participation. Academic institutions to industries to all of us as individuals participating in real-time action. Not because the commissioner is here, but simply because we work in 15 states and Chennai has actually set the model for the rest of India, right? There has not been one city where you've seen a collective collaboration in the revival restoration of nearly 300 plus water bodies in a matter of 3 years. Now the question is, all these water bodies got revived. Why did we get flooded? Reviving the water bodies was not just to prevent the flood. Look at the challenges in it. The water body does not have a structural boundary. When you're going there, you first need to establish this in social mindset that, look, this is where the pond's hydrological boundary ends. This is where the administrative boundary ends. And between the administrative boundary and the hydrological boundary, you've actually taken up space for different activities. And then to somehow get the larger population to understand, you don't have to concretize everything. Everything doesn't have to be concrete beautified. There are earthen systems, cultural practices through which we can still revive our water bodies and set a model through which we can actually achieve a sustainable, re-achieve, if I may use the word, re-achieve sustainable lifestyle which we once had, were exposed to, right? Now, when you first figure out the structural part of it, right, with the administration, civic society, with judiciary and everybody together, then comes the problem of free-flowing sewage, even though there is an underground sewage system, because these are illegal tapping systems that are being let into water bodies. Stormwater drains in many locations have these sewer lines which are connected to water bodies. There comes the question of quality. Then next comes the question of usage. Who's going to use this water body? There are antisocial elements after dark who may take over the water body. From fitness to recreation to any different ecological purpose, how is that water body getting utilized? These are questions as civic society we need to ask, and not just ask, but also participate in finding that answer and that solution. And I'm sure we're there. Look at this. Tambram didn't receive as much rainfall that it did in 2015. Climate change or the rain gods are unapologetically, they're going to bash us area after area, right? If 2015 was Tambram Muduchu, where there was 40 centimeters plus rainfall, this time it was Avadi, it was Tirukadakundram, it was so many other pockets in the larger periphery which actually got flooded, right? We never know what may happen, where, when. So the only way to be prepared is to look at, do we really need the roads to be raised year after year? Structural engineering, where we can actually participate, pitch in with some of the best engineering institutes in the country, in the city, we can arrive at that. Social participation, we've always been out there when it comes to a beach, lake, pond, plantation, flood, whatever be it, we never hesitate to participate. How do we bring in that momentum? Sans organizational identity. Let's just call all of us GCC. That's it. Why not? Because Greater Chennai Corporation is us. Can we volunteer under one umbrella and get this solution drafted? And that's where we think the solution lies. Again, I'm sure you've had a lot of these questions in the past, whether it's you or Ms. Neha or others in your office whom we get to work with. There is an opportunity now for us to actually grab and work towards. And I'm, as a civic society volunteer, I'm just inviting all of you to ensure the next time we come here, as you rightly mentioned, let it be a celebration of how Chennai probably beat a part of the climate change evil plans to drown us. And we'll ensure that it's not the pedestal speed breaker on which we stand, but at a different pedestal where we celebrate our climate resilience. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Mridula will make a point.
Just one thing. Because, just he mentioned climate change, and climate change accentuates every fault line, right? So we get our rainfall most of our rainfall in 100 hours. And climate change is shrinking the time in which we get it. So if it's 100 hours, it's now going to become 96, 95. So whatever, and India is going to get more rain, right? On average, we're going to get more rain, and it's going to shrink the time in which we get it. So at the time we need our tanks more than ever, or any storage more than ever, we're sort of losing our connect with it. That's the only point I wanted to say.
Avadi Tambram is the example.
Yeah, T Nagar, we'll start off with T Nagar, and then you can go on. And he has a very unenviable job, and I'll again leave that to the next thing, because as he said, most of us don't care on water, and I'll share the data from our institute later also.
Thank you so much. So, Mridula and Arun have, made protagonists of water and tanks, and now we have a real protagonist amidst us. We want to listen to. Mr. Bedi, the floor is yours. If you can tell us about the plans that the corporation has for a longer period of time and how civil society can be involved in a greater manner.
Thank you so much. Before I come over to the podium, let me first thank all of you for giving me this opportunity, and I am really privileged to be with this august panel. And I've been hearing, of course, you I know very well, but I've met Mridula 20 years back, and I remember that conversation that left. She was so erudite that time itself that I remembered when she told me. And Arun Krishnamurthy is part of our team. He's part of our GCC. Let me see. So thank you so much. And when I basically, when I was given the invitation a few days back by Sir Dr. Chandra Mauli, I really didn't have much of my thoughts put it into sort of a presentation. But I thought, since this is a very august gathering and the time is limited, I have prepared some 7-8 slides over here, where actually I will encompass some of the aspects of the climate change, how it has affected our world as general, Chennai in particular, and of course many issues which you have also mentioned, Arun. I'll just cover. Maybe I'll also stand because I'll be able to see my slide. And this, of course, Chennai, 85 lakh population and big city, as you know, 426 square kilometers, and again, the rainfall, the climate change, which was being referred to earlier. Annual rainfall is 132 centimeter, and we have already received 150% of our rain this year. And even in the month of in the northeast monsoon, as compared to 79 centimeter of rainfall that we expect as an average. So this is what Mridula has been telling. We have just about 140% of that we have already had now, and we have the entire month of December again for us to be there. And the point is that we have experienced 2 days where more than 20 centimeter of rainfall fell within a matter of few hours, which caused a lot of flooding. And myself running all, I didn't learn about Chennai in the first 5 months as I learned in the 6th month of my commissionership over here. Or in the first 10 years I have been in Chennai after my collectorship of Kadalur. Rather, I came back in 2007, as I have learned in the last 1 month actually. Okay, again, just comparing, giving the statistical features of what Chennai has faced in the last 5 years. Of course, 2015 was the season when we got a lot of floods. And this is the total rainfall which came to as against an average of 1,324, that is 13.24 centimeter. We had that time 22.65 centimeter. Then we had drought of 2016. I was agriculture secretary, and all over the state I was actually trying to get a lot of insurance money for the state, etc. And then normal years of 17, 18 was a drought year. 19 was also less than the average. It has been mentioned by both Ramya and Mridula. And now we have got 1726, 2020, 1726, and then 1999. That is, as I told you, we have got 150% rainfall, and it's still on actually. And now this is the climate change. Now first let me come to what are the causes of urban flooding. The first cause is, and though they are the theoretical causes as we see in any book, I'm sure a book of Mridula will also refer to that, but I have actually felt it across the. This actually from site we had got how Chennai has actually urbanized from 1991 to 2003 to 2016. The red dots is the built-in urbanization. It has increased. And it is the rapid urbanization which is the most important and crucial cause for all the flooding within the city.
The second issue, I will just touch these points because I have to maybe speak initially for the first 5 to 7 points. There are issues in urban and land use planning. In fact, I have been raising my voice as the corporation commissioner to the urban planning bodies, to my counterparts in the urban planning. I'll give you an example, which I have myself felt. This is the case of this is near Pallikarni. Okay, somewhere I think it's like this. It's Anairi, Narayanapuram Lake, and this is the road which goes to Pallikarni. Somewhere over here, I think there is Pallikarni, if I'm okay. So this area, this is a place called Chettinad Enclave. It's an upscale community with all people, doctors, engineers, IT guys staying over there. They were surrounded by water for about 10-15 days, and they were all in duplex. They were all the flats, the nice ground plus first floor flats, independent houses. I went over there to those houses. In fact, somebody had just put across the social media, and I always try to see my WhatsApp, even if I may not be able to take the call, but my message comes, even if I don't know a person, I'll try to either deflect that message to my officer to respond to, or myself respond. That day I actually responded, and I went over there and stood over here. I said, what's the reason why your area is being flooded? Then they told, sir, here this is Anai area, and I called the owner of this land, the original agriculture. This is Narayanapur area. This in the previous time, this used to get flooded, and the water, there were fields. They were not governmental ODI or canals going from one area to another. There were the farmers' patta lands where the channels will be there, private channels will be there, which will go from one, and they will all, this will get filled up, then this will get filled up, and then Palikarni Lake will get filled up. Now, because this was all sold as house site plots, so the plots came up, the beautiful houses came over there, we all built the houses, but the water doesn't know the physical, the boundaries put by the man. So the water was going all around the place. I went over there with a risk to my Innova car. That once or twice my car was also out during these floods. But then many times I travelled by jeep, and I think I travelled over here actually by jeep only. So we actually, the urban planning does take care of governmental ODI, but doesn't take care of the private waterways, which we have told that yes, that should also be always be considered in case of. I'll give you one more example. I'll go to the next. Of course, wetlands and floodplains have been covered. Of course, this is our, this is for example Adyar, somewhere the photograph has been taken. But most of the rivers, if you see, even the rivers in Europe, even Delhi, Yamuna, you see where Yamuna goes, there are large floodplains around Yamuna which do not allow construction. Construction is not allowed. But we have across Adyar, across Kuvam, across all other canals, right next to the river, we have got housing. So actually, we have to have a look that all such we should respect water. I was seeing a WhatsApp message in which Netherlands has actually got the land along the river boundary in many places and resettled those places elsewhere, so that river that land remains as the floodplain during the flooding areas, and that people are happy about that actually. Of course, again, urban planning, Pallikarni marshland, Ujjal marshland is this. But earlier, for example, it used to be 1992, this was the area where there was no development. Now the marshland has actually has shrunk into this. All other areas may have been patta lands originally also, but this area ensured that the marshlands acted as a sponge during the rainy season, which we don't have this privilege now. It was 1965. This land was 1965. This is the old satellite pictures. This is a big marshland, but now we have all together. All of us, we are all responsible for this. This is the reason for this. Of course, now again coming to what Mridula has told across the years, these are the rainfall spells, all the disasters have started striking more and more as the years go, and in a closer spans of time. This means more and more of climatic changes are happening. Okay, this is how the disasters have occurred in the last few years. This I took this data from Mr. Tirupugal, who had a discussion with me yesterday. He is part of our Chennai flood committee. This we know all these years. Chennai 2005, 2015, etc. Various cities. Everybody has been facing the impacts of climate change. Not only India, but all over the world also. We have been seeing Michigan, Japan, Cambodia, New York 2021, Queensland, Australia. So we have been having the disasters every short spans of time. So it's not we alone in Chennai. All over the world, the same story is there. Of course, another cause of flooding is the reservoir management. As you all know, I'll not go much into this, but this is something that's very important for us. I, as Corporation Commissioner, have been every day in touch with the PWD about when the Pundi is being released or when the Chembrambakam is being released, and across the entire, because we suffered that in 2015, across the entire, the last 1 month itself, I used to put pressure, and PWD always obliged on day-to-day releases of water so that reservoirs are kept having a buffer. Now, for example, 86% of the water is there at present. We always have tried to ensure that buffer is there, and that's the major cause of floods in many cities, not just Chennai. Of course, this was also spoken by Arun also. We have concretized the entire city. We have to change our thoughts into this. We have to put in permeable roads, permeable footpaths. In fact, we have decided that we will not concretize our paths except the parks, except the waterways. Leave everything else to this. So we have kept it just like that. So this is a policy level change the government needs to bring to ensure that the city doesn't get concretized. Loss of tree cover, a big factor. I am very strongly for it that we are losing our tree cover. Of course, Chennai is building up. We have announced for 2.5 lakh trees. We have already taken up more than 99,000 trees through the citizens' participation. But we have got a long way to go in order to ensure that this is there. Of course, man-made barriers. In fact, he was talking about pedestrian footpath is there. I'll give you in man-made barriers. I'll give you this again example of our old Mahabalipuram road. We have put up old Mahabalipuram road. See, this is a place where I was there for 2 days. In fact, Honorable Chief Minister was also there. Somewhere over here, we got Perambakam, Sholinganallur. Somewhere Sitlapakam, somewhere here is Perambakam. I'm not able to say. Yeah, this is Perambakam. We have got Semancheri over here. What happens is that earlier, this tank, all these tanks, whenever they surplus in Chengalpet district, the water used to come slowly towards the Buckingham Canal and go to the sea. Now then we put the road over Old Mahabalipuram Road, East Coast Road. No, the water doesn't go. The water then goes through Semancheri, Perambakam, out over there to Pallikarni Lake. From there it goes to Okyamadu to Buckingham Canal. So this water comes back here, and somewhere over here near Muttukad it goes into the sea. So man-made barriers is something which we have to be very careful about. And it's not government alone. Government and civil society have to together take this decision in the planning process in order to ensure that we don't have flooding. Possible just 2-3 more slides and then I'll close. The one is, of course, as rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharge. And I'm very thankful to people like Arun, whose organization are participating with us in Namukonamitittam in recharging many tanks. We will like more and more of citizens to come forward to rebuild the partnership. We have got this Namukonamitittam scheme wherein we can get 30% contribution from the civil society organizations or the private sector. We'll put the balance 70% and then we do it jointly. If the contribution is more than 50%, then the participating agency can themselves take up the work and we'll give their balance contribution without tendering also. In case of 30% contribution, then we tender it out. If it's more than 50%, then it's themselves who can do. I am telling this because many of you might be interested in this sort of projects. Yes, we want to go ahead for that. Then of course we have to put more holding ponds, permeable payments, trees. I have already told we have already put up more than 91,000 trees, but we have to have this year after year. Tree cover in Chennai has to increase. The canals need to be widened, waterways need to be widened. In fact, we are in the process of doing this. We want to do this. We want you to put pressure on us to do. Then only we'll be able to do. We have to, and we are also going to, of course, short-term solutions. We have to put some permanent pumping stations. In some of the places, we have actually successfully put them. For example, in Velacheri area, we have put permanent pumping stations, which have enabled us to ensure that AGS colony and other areas in Velacheri have been rather flooding free for most of the days this year. Robust SWD infrastructure is something. This is my second last slide, which is the need of the day. Whatever said and done, many people tell me don't put stormwater drain. You put everything groundwater recharge. This volume of water, the groundwater recharge simply doesn't work. We have to send the water out, but put recharge structures within the groundwater drainage also. Do our ponds, but whatever is extra, at least we can't let the humanity suffer because of the flooding being over there. We have also decided, this is something which I want to tell you in very interesting. We used to put manhole after 5 meters, but now the courts have said you can't enter the manholes, and I don't allow that. So we have taken a decision now, Chennai Corporation, that we'll put 2.6 meter distance manhole, so that from the manhole to itself, somebody can clear off the silt and then remove it without going into. From here, he can do up to 1 meter from the manhole. Well, the next manhole can come this way 1 meter, and 0.3 meter is the radius of the manhole. So that's a small technical issue I thought I'll tell you. We are also putting up a Kosas layer project which is there for North Chennai. We are spending a lot of money, but we have to do it very, very diligently. We want you to watch the Greater Chennai Corporation's projects. This project for the Southern Chennai is coming up for 1714 crore, which we are shortly going to get a nod and go for tendering. We are also in the process of doing all over the city wherever we have put pumping stations. We are putting up stormwater drain projects over there to ensure that next year we don't put pumps, but a pipeline should be there. But pumping may be there in new areas which may get water supply, water inundation. The last is some technical solutions are also required. For example, this is something which, this is the last slide, which I will like to show that we need sometimes, for example, Bazula Road, I was so surprised. Every time there, in 3 rains, the water stood on Bazula Road. And we found we also need good engineering solutions sometime from all of you also. And somebody said, sir, this is because all the water from T Nagar goes, let me say, I'm not talking about anything about smart city, I'm not going to speak, but this is a simple issue. The water is coming over here as per the drainage, going over there to GN Chetty Road, then going to Mambalam Canal. So from here it used to go there, all the water. Then somebody said, sir, why don't you put up a bypass from here so that this branches over there and comes, and another bypass. Okay, we said, let us try that. 2 nights we slept sleepless nights. I put one pipe over there. I made a drain this side, another pipe over here to divert part, another pipe over here. You made one this side, one that side. And the third round of rains, when it came, Bazula Road was only having water for 1 day. The next day the water reduced because we had an engineering solution. So sometimes all these engineering solutions do not come from us in-house alone. We need you to participate with us in giving us the solution. These are a few thoughts which I thought I'll take this opportunity and tell it to you at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you for that, sir. It was a very enlightening presentation, and we've had a good mix of facts, historical facts, current situation, what happens today in the city. We'd now like to throw the floor open for questions. Please do ask your questions.
My name is Gokul. Thank you for the presentation. This is a question for Mridula. One of the slides that Mr. Bedi had put up showed that in Henan, China, there was a record flooding in July 2021. There was some news recently, I don't remember where, probably The Economist covered it, where it said that Henan had gone through a similar situation a few years back. But this time they recouped much faster because they created something called a sponge city. So, given that they have the same problem of urbanized settlements and history of not having planned things well and having to face climate change, rather than try to work solutions within the cities, their idea was to create a sponge city where the water would drain there and help the city come back to its shape much faster. Is this too radical a solution? Is this something that's been ever thought about? Or is it just a...
I'll jump in. See, there's a lot of should And as a parent of 2 children, I find should to be the most useless word in the dictionary, because I tell my daughter she should do this and she says, please go climb a tree. So I think should doesn't work. And what was very interesting is ADR, which is the Association of Democratic Reforms, which is a body started by 3 professors in IIM Ahmedabad, asked several 100,000 Indians what they cared about when they voted. Right? They said a lot of things, and I've gone into great detail of that in the book. But their least prioritized governance priority was the encroachment of public lands, which gives you an answer of why tanks are as encroached as they are. Then Sundaram Climate Institute went and asked people, will you vote on water? And we asked it during the 2019 crisis. We asked about 900 people, 600 people gave us an answer, and the overwhelming majority said no. Water is not a voting issue. Party, caste, cash, but not water. As long as that remains your reality, I think you're going to have a problem. But to answer your question, why are all these tanks disappearing? Where is the land? Right? Where is the land in India to create a sponge city? I remember my uncle telling me when he went to Beijing last time, he said, yeah, we created 10 new ring roads. Because they can acquire land easily and build those 10 ring roads. But where in India can you create a sponge city? We can't even, I mean, that's the thing. We can't do it. We can use compost, which is great at sucking and holding water, but yeah, that's his handicap. He can't, he won't. And you know, the public are signaling that if you do that, we won't reward you. So we are really caught in we have to look there to solve the problem.
Yeah, hi, this is Rajesh Chandra Mauli. Couple of things. We are a city which has 3 rivers and a Bay of Bengal, and we are a water-starved city. For many years of my growing life, we've seen we are a water-starved city. Yet whenever it rains, there's a morbid fear amongst the residents of the city that you're going to get inundation, you're going to have a problem of water entering your house, there's going to be knee-deep water, waist-deep water, wherever. And it's an irony we are living with. And should we completely use this as an opportunity instead of taking small incremental steps to clean up the system and wait for the next rains to expose some other flaw that exists? Or is it a time for us to stand up and say, here we have an opportunity, we will completely go in for an overhaul of the system? I know it's expensive, I know it's fashion talk, but this is an opportunity. The second one is, maybe Mr. Bedi can tell us, isn't it imperative for the administrators to tell us what the plan is? Most of it is very opaque. Okay, I'll just tell you, I live in Kalakshetra Road, and we've never had water stagnation whatsoever. We've never had water stagnation at all. So whatever water comes, it gets drained out somewhere. And we had a neighbor who moved in from the US, and he was flabbergasted to see suddenly the road was they started digging up the road. He came and asked they're draining the stormwater drain. He just asked one question: shouldn't they tell us in advance that there is going to be a civic work that's going to happen here? As somebody who's going to be impacted by this, shouldn't I know? Shouldn't they take feedback from us on what needs to be done? It's not somebody from the top decide that there needs to be a stormwater drain here, and sadly in Kalakshetra Road, we have 3 underground channels going. One is the stormwater drain, which is in the middle of the road.
Stormwater will be on the side.
No, in Kalakshetra Road, it's on the middle of the road. Oh. On one side is the sewer line, on the other side is the desalt pipe. So we have 3 pipelines that goes under the road. And even today, we have completely lost peace living 5 HP pumps, today more, pumping out water out of the place. I really don't know what's happening. And the point that I'm trying to say is, isn't it imperative for the administrators to tell the civil society, we have a problem like this here, and this is the solution we are proposing, and we will do this work from point from this period of time to this period of time?
Thank you. That was a nice question. I'll answer all the three parts. First is incremental versus overall. My take on this is that, see, across the years, since the last 50 years, the city, the society and the governments have built up stormwater drain canal infrastructure. Even from the British time itself, all Buckingham Canal, all those before our independence, we have got all that infrastructure. So we should build upon what already has been done by the humanity. It's otherwise too we can't afford it. The government will not afford it, even if we were a very rich government. Even if we were as rich as USA or China, I don't think it's practically feasible. A lot of money has gone into this. My answer is yes, incremental. Let me also tell at this point of, I have 20 years back I was commissioner of Madurai Corporation. I have seen flooding across that area also. Now with the lot of TV media channels etc., there is actually the scare is sometimes there. Of course, I am also, if my house is there getting flooded, I will be scared. But no, let us not have that fear. Solutions are there. I'm always positive about it. I can very well say that as the city commissioner of this 426 square kilometers population, there are 7 or 8 pockets alone where I have a problem today, where I need to have a solution, and the solution is possible. I can just count on my fingers. I have a problem in somewhere in Jawahar Nagar, and then I have a problem somewhere in Ashok Pillar. The third problem is in T Nagar. Fourth problem is Chettinad. Fifth problem is Semancheri. Sixth problem is Sita Colony. Kalakshetra Colony Nagar has been, but the Kalakshetra road has come to my notice. But they are there. The issues are can be easily sorted out with smaller level of intervention. So that should not create a fear that no, the city is sinking. No. Yes, there are issues in a big city. Even if I were commissioner of Mumbai or Delhi, which are bigger than this, I'll have problems up my sleeve, and my colleagues over there are also there. But the point is, we should be aware what is there, and we should actually fight. It's when I say we, it's not Tamil Nangal. It should be Nam, including you and me. You should put pressure on me, and I should do my work properly. So that's the point. Third is transparency. Yes, it is required. I am a strong believer in transparency. When when the rain started, I asked for the stormwater drainage maps. My people said, sir, stormwater drainage maps are there, but sir, avlo or sile edathila updation kedaiyadhu appdi sonnanga. So I said, paravailla, ஒவ்வொருத்தருக்கு வந்து citizens நிறைய பேர் engineers இருக்காங்க, அவங்களுக்கு தெரியணும் என்னன்னா அங்க ஏரியால எங்கெங்க stormwater drainage இருக்கு அப்படி தெரியணும். So that's the time when my people said, yes, I have got young DCs, young IS officers who are 20 years junior to me. So they said, they brought the maps. I said, upload it. I uploaded it in Greater Chennai Corporation's website. I got a flag somewhere saying that here it's not proper, here there it's not proper. But 95% is good. So now what I am trying to do is I am updating that with all the additional updations which I have. Now what third exercise which I am doing is that wherever we put pumps, I am also putting that in my maps. Putting that agenda, I will also put that in my website so that next time, wherever I put pump, at least I know that over here I have to put a drain over there that's missing. And the corollary to that is, yes, whatever are our new plans, we should make you, the citizens, know about it. I'll give you an example. Today, we issued a press release that we are going to go for new roads. My press release was not that 140 crore roads. I have given the data about which zone the roads. I can do that in the press release. I am also going to upload that data in the our website so that a person who wants to know which place his road is getting upgraded, he should know. If his road is not there, he should put pressure upon me. Sir, my road is worse than that road. Why you have taken this and why not taken that? Similarly, we will also put stormwater drain infrastructure. So it's people like you who bring the issues to our notice, and we are quite open. We want to be as transparent as possible.
I am Ramesh from God's own pin code, Mailapur. Great to see you, Bedi Saab, who are so wedded to our city. Thank you for that. I just wanted to tell you very candidly that you had mentioned about improving the greenery. In our colony, that is Logaland colony where we stay, at some point of time, about a dozen years ago, there was plantings of trees done in the form of saplings. Out of say 12 or so, only one is remaining, and that is in front of my house. It is being taken care of. Whereas in the case of other 11 or so, it was all plucked out, chipped, and things like that happened by my own so-called friends and colleagues and neighbors of ours, and only one remains. And so, how are we to handle this particular issue? We only have to apply our minds. I don't want to blame anybody for that. Number one. Number two, in our God's own pin code, I find to my own amazement that good roads are being topped every year, and bad roads are left to the fate of its own, kind of a thing. And it is being topped by not scrapping out the old bitumen, but by simply scratching, not scrapping, scratching a bit just to get some grip, kind of a thing. And then one more line, done. And over a period of 10 years or so, the amount of increase in the surface level has gone up by about half a meter or so. And that is the reason why very many houses in our area are getting water into their, not into their inner houses, at least it is coming into the compound wall. And so maybe in your list of the roads that has to be relayed or upgraded or topped, please see to it that the existing bitumen is taken out substantially, and then only one layer is being put, by which this one quickie solution will solve some of the problems that we are facing in God's own pin code. Thank you, sir.
I'll be short in my answer. First, let me compliment you. You are really grounded to the reality. I agree with you that if there is I am strong believer of the system that there are some projects which we should not take it on our own. And one of that, in my opinion, is tree planting in the public places. In fact, 3-4 years back, Chennai Corporation had spent some 3 to 4 crore rupees and put up trees over there. I'm sure the majority of the trees are not surviving. So when I said that we have put up 99,000 trees, I got a flack from my other colleagues, but I took a decision that I will not plant a single tree. I have not spent a single money in that. What I did was I called the meetings of residential welfare associations. I said, those of you who are interested in planting the trees should not only plant, but also you all put money in your residential welfare association. You collect the money. Put a tree guard over there, put a gardener who will put water in 10 to 20 trees and ensure it survives. Only thing my job is, I will watch the tree, the photos of all these trees. I have once in 15 days meeting with my officers, watch the photo of tree. After 2 months, again the same photo, previous and present photo. Sometimes the trees has not survived, but a small pressure on the RW is being put by me. So still we will have tree mortality, which will be there, but at least it is a community driven initiative which will be better. So this is my answer to this. I want you to do the tree planting, me to encourage you. I have called the good RWs in every zone and given them a certificate through my minister. That is a thing that I can do from my side. The second is about the roads. I fully agree with you, and you're so vigilant. There's an issue called milling of the roads. Nowadays we have issued a circular. In fact, today's press release we gave a circular that roads will be only undertaking after milling. Milling means the additional BT layer of the road, the bitumen top layer of about 2 centimeter will be fully scratched, collected, dumped in a low-lying area outside the city, and then only the road will be laid. This has been made a system, so I think that will take care. Only the problem is that my person should ensure that he scratches out the entire 2 centimeter, not just do that 1 centimeter thing and not collude with the engineer and contractor should not collude. That I think we will watch. The last point is, you said that good roads get relayed every time, bad roads don't get. That's why we will put the entire road list in the public domain, and it's the citizens to tell us that this is a good road which is being laid. So you put pressure on me, I'll be happy to get your flack and do my job properly.
I'm Professor Gangadharan. I'm the administrator of Madras School of Economics. I just want to add, Mritula Ramesh has said how our ancestors have created the water thing. Prior to joining this MSc, I was working with IFMR, where the Public Works Department, PWD department, has entrusted a study to us, renovation of ex-Zamin tanks in Ramanathapuram district. In the entire Ramanathapuram district, there were 5,000 tanks. They have built the tanks in such a way, if the water from one tank fills up, the surplus water goes to the other tank. Like that, the entire things gets filled up. We did a study of the renovation of that exam. I don't know whether that has been done or not, but few years back.
In T Nagar, we found that there are broad, footpaths, which I felt possibly could have been the reason for flooding of T Nagar. I'm not too sure of it, but I would say that was not a smart city move, though I don't want to use that word, and that has caused the flooding. And T Nagar, Sitamal colony, I don't know why Sitamal colony all these years didn't get flooded so much. Very strange. And we saw places like Kolattur also like swimming underwater. And most of the educational institutions or hospitals are built on the water, where water flows. So what is the because the corporation and the sanctioning authority, they should take, when such kind of issues are placed, or planning thing is placed before them, should it not be stopped at the initial stage itself? After, for example, if water rises in a hospital, we see most of the time the hospitals are built on the banks of rivers or inside the river. They encroach in the river flow. So the preparedness, I would feel, should be there. I know that this is a very unenviable job for the corporation commissioner. I'm very happy that you have taken the time to spend with us and explaining this.
Oh, thank you so much. I will answer to ma'am. So first, 3 points. One, that why are we after damage control? Why don't we make prior preparation? We make a lot of prior preparation. Only thing is, media looks us after the damage. They don't look about what we have done. For example, we did in the last 3 months, we did about 800 kilometers of stormwater drain desilting, which prevented flooding in many areas. Now, where the flooding has occurred is not because desilting was not done most of the places. It is because of, I'll give you an example of some of the issues. My guess is why Sitamal colony flooded was because earlier a part of the area on the towards the Mount Road side of Sitamal colony used to flow towards Mamlam Canal from the Mount Road, and because of the metro rail work, that water is diverted to this side, metro rail work. So you can't, metro rail is our asset. That water came towards this side, and so the Sitamal colony has more the volume of water. Why Mamlam got affected is because part of water from Ashok Nagar started coming towards West Mamlam, because in between some colonies wanted stormwater drain. So they were given a connection which actually linked the Ashok Nagar area to West Mamlam, and instead of that water diverting towards Trustpuram Canal across Arcot Road, came over there. We did diagnose that, and we stopped that. In the third rain, that did not happen. So the point is, what else we prepared? We did a lot of tree pruning. We set right our. We also had a lot of pumps, because there are some saucer shaped areas. Stormwater drain will work over there. We kept all our pumps ready. In fact, before the rains, we used to make our engineers sleep over there and keep their pumps. You will not be having your water drained out after 1 or 2 days in most of the places if those engineers and officials were not placed over there in all those points. The machinery was not there. So the corporation does a lot of things, but we are not perfect. We also have a lot of imperfections in us. It is for us, you and the media, to watch us, guide us, criticize us, so that we do better. This is the first response. Second point is, second construction issues. I have told you about the second issue also. The last is, educational institutions and hospitals are built on the bank sides and across the waterways. This is not only there are many. I gave you the example of this. Some of the areas, Samancheri and Chettinad Enclave, they are actually built on patta lands. But the policy level changes need to be brought by the planning authorities. So the corporation is actually a sister organization. We have given our views and thoughts to that. Man learns from mistakes, and it's not just Chennai. It's all over India. This problem is all over India in this regard. So yes, based on this only, as I told you, in Western countries also, they removed many of their river bank areas and made them flood plans. So we also will come up with solutions like this in this regard. And I think now all the government is actually, and local bodies are more vigilant about constructions taking place on the river banks. Even courts are also and not allowing anybody to put this thing. You know, even our government and local bodies, we are very sensitive about anything coming on a waterway or water body. Already existing construction, then and there, I will not be able to reply to you, but our mind is there that if there are flows like that, we are there definitely to remove those obstructions in the flows, whether even if the constructions are there. In fact, there are a number of examples which I can tell that within the Patta lands, we have forced those authorities to make the way for our waterways to go through. So that is the broad reply I can give at this point.
Thank you, sir. I'm just going to intervene and give him a short break. I know you want to ask him questions, but I want to ask Mridula a question. I was very intrigued by the fact that you said there are functional lakes and non-functional water bodies, and that in the past they managed to survive because they were all functional, because they were the center of people's existence. Now, how do we make non-functional water bodies functional again? Is there a plan?
Again, I think it has to. I think again the heart of it is linking it back with the community. But how do we do that in an urban setting, right? You can't have, it's already like in a dysfunctional setting with sewage and solid waste, and it's a mess. So why would anyone want to celebrate? Why would anyone? It won't give status to anyone. So one of the things my institute actually found out was, if provided with the correct infrastructure, a single lake can provide 100 jobs, right? And the answer really is tank tourism. Today, we're all short of places to congregate. We're all looking for places to walk, to cycle, to hang out, to see performing arts, to just be with our friends and become a community. And the lakes provide an option for doing that. You know, can't we create cycling paths around it? Can't we create walking paths around it? Put a selfie spot, put Wi-Fi hotspots, create a performance space for people to come and perform. Playgrounds, boating. You know, we've put down, we studied one lake, which is the Chettinad Lake, and this is a hill station, agreed. But if you look at how many jobs it provides, from monsoon time, which is shut, it provides 300 jobs, to season time, it provides 1,500 jobs. A weighted average of 700 jobs from a 26-hectare lake. If you look at Madurai, there is the Mariamman Teppakulam. It's an 8-hectare lake. For many years, all the feeding channels were encroached, and those are the easiest to encroach because nobody cares, because once the link with the community goes, and earlier a tank used to feed an ayakat, which was the fields it used to support, and the farmers had a right on the water of the tank, and they used to protect the tank. The moment the ayakat disappears, the tank becomes vulnerable, and nobody complains when the channels get encroached. But again, like Mr. Bedi said, when the courts intervened and the encroachments were cleared, after 40 years, water flowed into the Teppakulam. Within a month, 42 livelihoods had come up around the tank. And then we started talking about what are the infrastructure to be provided. And the corporation provided the infrastructure, boating, benches, not very complicated, playground. March, before the Delta wave of the coronavirus, we counted 126 jobs. So I think if you create those kind of jobs with each tank, I can bet you, if something happens to the tank, the people getting the jobs will start up.
Right, I think that's a great idea. I think also that's one option. Even the walkways along the comb, you are planning some cycling tracks, and
Yes.
This
Actually,
selfie spot and stuff can be, to make it more attractive to the local residents, perhaps.
yes. Actually, we are also all the water bodies around, like Mr. Krishnamurthy has mentioned, that there are some water bodies which have been taken up in the last few years. Many of those water bodies, we have actually put up nice walkways all around and open air gyms. Actually, a lot of North Chennai, even in Kolathur, I have seen present CM actually has taken a lot of interest in such. These all actually make the people ensure that those water bodies are lively and they don't get sewage water, etc. I think so. I fully agree with what Mridula says, that we have to ensure that those water bodies are lively and vibrant. That way we can have more and more of such water bodies.
Right. Also, I think, tourism operators can actually look at a hop on, hop off tank tour. I mean, if that's, we have enough tanks in this city. So, questions? Yes.
And their participation. Now, when you talk of resilience, I think Chennai Vasis are the most resilient as far as water is concerned. I remember a conversation when running around in gumboots and this thing. The people told, sir, for generations water comes, it goes off after 4 days. நீங்கள் வந்து பம்பை போட்டு விட்டுருங்க, கூட வந்து டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணிடுங்க, அதோட வந்து we'll be happyங்கிறாங்க. So that resilience is that, is it resilience or is it fatalism? That we have to accept that this will happen year after year and this is our fate. So how would you change this fatalism in the behavior of people to expect more from this thing and change their own behavior and also the behavior of the community? So I think that would be the solution, rather than looking at the government all the time and saying that, okay, you do this, you do that, when I have not done what I am expected to do. Right? So if you could talk about people as the focus in all this.
What I would always quote as an example is, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people wearing Shegwera t-shirts in Chennai, and I love New York t-shirt in Chennai, and then walking around. And then if you stop, probably since we're talking statistics through the panel, if you stop 100 of those people wearing Shegwera t-shirt and ask them why they're wearing Shegwera t-shirt, it's a trend. More than the fact that I know anything about Shegwera. I'm not saying they don't. All that I'm saying is it's a trend. Then if I compare that to a Bharatyar of Chennai or anybody in Chennai who's lived, the local pride is missing. There's a lake called the Arasan Kalani Lake, which is just behind the Perumbakam settlement. And there is a beautiful history behind why the name Arasan Kalani, what it's got to do with the Pallavas, and why that particular, it's the royal dew and the royal waters. That's what Arasan Kalani. Arasanukana Kalani, and the Marila or Kadir. Marundeshwarar temple tank oda kadayo illa indha mari, for every water body there's a story. This story is lost. Without local pride, I'm not willing to take that water body seriously, right? And I'm in more ways than one a dynamic population where I keep changing, right? I'm not the same set of people living in the same area for a long time. It's a large number, and the natives here have become diluted, which means that the concentration is in such a way that the pride also gets lost. Without that local pride, there is minimal participation. That's what we are constantly struggling. All the wall paintings that you're seeing around Adayar to Raj Bhavan and everything which we're doing part of this larger campaign is simply about birds of Chennai, snakes of Chennai, frogs of Chennai, the sea turtle of Chennai, the rivers of Chennai, lakes and ponds of Chennai. This is India's ecological capital. That pride element needs to be brought, where probably even CIC can help take it to multiple schools, and through authors like Mridula, where we can actually take it to many more people, where we touch upon pride elements of Chennai's ecology. 10 years from now, I think the conversation would be much different, where we're looking at a climate laboratory, a climate model in an urban India, in an economic powerhouse, where people are aware of water bodies, of ecology. Without that pride, participation is nil. That's what I feel.
Sir, myself Namachivayam. Sir, you have told about cold milling of roads, but that depth of cold milling is very minimum, sir. That is the reason still you are practicing good practice, but it is not enough. It has to further cold mill. That is the risk. Just there you are scrapping it, it is coming over small level only. Further, it has to be cold milled, sir. Then some of the roads connecting with highways, that highways and highways roads mostly not cold milled. They are repeatedly relaying it. So corporation doing scrapping, it is almost they are maintaining, but highways roads are always higher. In some places, water crossing from across the highways, it is obstructed. You have to get further coordination to maintain both the roads, highways roads and also corporation roads. In many places, particularly Velacheri, Tambaram areas, this problem occurs, sir.
I think that we can consider as a response.
To the commissioner again, Sat Sri Akal. My question is, while flooding is definitely important in inundation, equally important and serious is the issue that we are not conserving the water. So much of water is actually running into the sea. And next year, when you are in the drought stage, maybe we will be back to the tankers. Is there any tangible plan to desalt and increase the depth of all the reservoirs around Chennai?
Yes, you have touched a very important issue, which I also mentioned. You see, there was a mention that there were 462 lakes and all, but actually the surviving lakes which are with Greater Chennai Corporation, I am actually a little poor in figures, but around 260 and odd lakes are there. Plus there are PWD assets. Again, governmental PWD is another department, so they are having water resources wing assets are there. So yes, it is very important for us to desalt them, deepen them so as to retain more of water. So we are in the process, and that's where I mentioned that we also look forward to the private sector and the civil society organizations to participate with us in the desilting process, not because government really needs money. We want the people's participation so that the job done is a well done job. So that is the first point I like to say. Again, a corollary to what there was a question about Sponge City by Gokul also. Just a corollary to that, in our Kosasthalyar project, we are actually taking up a project wherein the stormwater drains in Tiruvattrur region are being connected to a tank near Tsunami Nagar. They are actually being diverted over there, which will act as a sponge for that water, and excess water then only will be diverted out towards the sea. So this is another aspect of water conservation. Third aspect is the government has always, all the governments, irrespective of party, have been pushing for rainwater harvesting. Yes, we do rainwater harvesting, but it is here where more than me, we also require your participation. The citizens should ensure that they don't just do the rainwater harvesting just to get his plan approved, but really do rainwater harvesting so that his or her borewell will also get recharged by the next rain. We want this to become a Chennai citizens movement, rainwater harvesting. So that will be the answer of the. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. I'm afraid we'll have to.
One question, please. See, this all the subways, whether you take from either Madley subway or Ranganathan subway or Doraswamy subway, all subways get flooded with the first immediate rain. I think there has to be a permanent solution to have a pump there so that it doesn't accumulate and hinders the traffic. And I am from KK Nagar. This Rajamanar Salai, even slightest rain, water get flooded, and then it takes weeks together before it drained out. Even there is no place to pump. Even if you pump, it will come back to the same place. So, you want some answer?
Shall I respond? I have the answer for both the issues. Sir, first point I like to tell about the subways is that subways are actually basically that part which is the lowest across. So no stormwater drain will work. Only thing that will work is a submersible motor. The water gets collected from the lowest point into a well, and from where there the submersible motors pump out the water. When the rains are heavy, whether it is Chennai or Delhi or Madurai or New York or Washington, subways do get flooded. I have got videos of Washington DC subways getting flooded. The point is, if the rain is too excessive, then subway has to be closed at that point of time, because Otherwise, the wells will be too big and you have to artificially put large number of motors over there, which may not be practical. You have to do the economics cost analysis. But yes, this time we have kept the subways out on our radar. I have got all subways photographs right, direct live feed in my office chamber itself. We have kept that ensured that the subways are not closed for a long time except Rangarajapuram subway, which we use for pumping out of water from West Mambalam. The second is your specific issue of Rajamanar Sale. It's a saucer shaped area. I have myself spent around 8 to 9 hours studying that issue. In fact, in the third rain, I diverted some other water also coming towards Rajamanar Sale to the MGR canal, which goes in the next to Ramasamy road over there. The water, we will further ensure that water diverted to Rajamanar Sale will reduce in the coming rains. It may not be totally out of inundation in the next rains and the next year, but definitely I can assure that the water inundation will be much lesser because that's something that's high on our priority.
I think I like all of you, I'm leaving this meeting with enormous optimism for many reasons. One is that the subject of climate change is being attended to in such great detail. Second is the awareness that we as a civilization have been so protective of water, and it's just a blip in our civilizational memory of a few hundred years, thanks to some foreign invasions, where we forgot about the importance of water. Clearly, that memory is still alive and is going to come back in a big way with the wonderful work that people like Arun and people like Mridula are doing. And very importantly, a corporation commissioner who has amazed me with his depth of knowledge and awareness of the issues. So thank you very, very much. And at CIC, we are very much into being proud about the city of Chennai. We started CIC because we want to celebrate the city of Chennai. We have many big things happening in CIC, hopefully over the next 1 year. And I want to share a couple of them with you today. The first one is that next Friday, we'll be announcing today that we have the very eminent citizen of Chennai, of India, certainly from Chennai at some point, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, speaking here in the same location on constitutionalism and the future of the Indian economy. Please do come and attend that. It promises to be a wonderful event. I would like to introduce Dr. Chandra Mauli, who has just joined us as the Managing Director of CIC. We have big plans for CIC. He's a very eminent bureaucrat, very senior bureaucrat, and served in many positions, including spending his time counting every citizen of India at some point in his career, for which he got an award from the UN, I understand. So we'll have many plans for CIC, which hopefully we'll be able to unveil pretty soon. So have a great evening and see you all on 10th.